Sarah hated the attic. It was dusty, cobwebbed, filled with shadows. Every time she climbed the creaky stairs, a shiver ran down her spine. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and forgotten memories. She could almost hear the whispers of the past echoing through the rafters. Her grandmother's house was old, full of secrets. Each room held a story, each corner a mystery. The attic, however, was the most enigmatic of all. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, where the past lingered in every shadow. Secrets that the attic kept hidden. Sarah often wondered what lay behind the dusty boxes and old furniture. What stories were locked away in the forgotten corners? She felt a strange pull, an urge to uncover the mysteries that lay buried in the attic's depths. One box, tucked in a corner, called to her. It was different from the others, older, more worn. She knew it was wrong, but she opened it. Her heart pounded as she lifted the lid, revealing its contents. Inside, nestled in yellow tissue paper, was a doll. Not a child's toy. This was unsettling. The doll seemed to radiate an eerie energy, as if it had a life of its own. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she stared at it. Porcelain skin, stark white, eyes large and black stared back. They seemed almost alive, following her every move. The doll's presence was overwhelming, filling the room with a sense of dread. A grotesque grin stretched across its painted face. This was no ordinary doll. It was as if the doll was mocking her, daring her to uncover its secrets. The grin sent chills down her spine, making her want to look away, but she couldn't. This was Momo. Sarah felt a chill. She shouldn't touch it. She knew this. But the doll seemed to call to her, its presence almost hypnotic. She felt an inexplicable connection to it, as if it was meant for her, but the doll called to her. Her fingers brushed against cold porcelain. The touch sent a jolt through her, as if the doll was alive. She could feel its energy, its history, its secrets. It was both terrifying and fascinating. The air grew heavy, the room colder. A whisper, barely audible. "You found me." The words sent a shiver down her spine. She felt a presence in the room, something watching her, waiting. The attic was no longer just a room. It was alive, and it had chosen her. News traveled fast in their small town, especially anything strange. The doll was strange. People whispered about it. Sarah tried to ignore them, tried to forget the coldness that clung to her since finding Momo. Days passed. The whispers followed. Then at the grocery store, she saw it. A flyer. Missing child. The picture. It was her, but younger, holding a familiar doll. Momo. Panic welled in her chest. This was wrong. She raced home, heart pounding. Up to the attic, box waiting. Empty. Momo was gone. The whispers returned, stronger now, mocking her. "You can't escape me." Fear, cold and sharp, pierced her. This was only the beginning. Sleep offered no escape. Nightmares plagued her. Momo, eyes glowing, chased her through endless hallways, whispering threats, promising pain. Each morning she woke drenched in sweat, heart racing. Her friends noticed the change, the fear in her eyes, the way she flinched at shadows. They asked what was wrong, but how could she explain? About the doll, the nightmares? They'd think she was crazy. So she kept silent, distance growing between her and her friends, isolation closing in. Just like Momo wanted. The whispers followed her everywhere. "You're mine now." Fear became her constant companion. There was no escaping it. The town felt different, heavier. A darkness had settled over it, coinciding with Sarah finding Momo. She couldn't shake the feeling they were connected, that the doll was responsible. She wasn't the only one noticing. People whispered about accidents, illnesses, strange occurrences, always blaming the doll, the legend of Momo growing with each telling. The whispers followed her, taunting. "See what I can do?" They're all afraid. Fear had a grip on the town, and Sarah knew with chilling certainty it wouldn't stop until Momo got what it wanted. But what did it want? The library became her sanctuary. Surrounded by books, she felt safe, almost. She researched everything she could find. Dolls, curses, legends, anything to understand Momo. She discovered a story, an old legend, a doll carved from cursed wood, possessed by a vengeful spirit. It fed on fear, growing stronger with each victim. The legend mentioned a name, Aiko. Aiko. The name echoed in her mind. It felt important. The whispers confirmed it. Aiko, find Aiko. But who was Aiko, and how could she help? The answers remained elusive, hidden in the darkness that Momo brought with it. She couldn't do this alone. She needed help. Her friends. They wouldn't believe her. Would they? They had to. Lives were at stake. The entire town. Hesitantly, she told them everything. about the doll, the nightmares, the legend of Aiko. To her surprise, they believed her. They had seen the changes in the town too, felt the darkness. Together, they formed a plan. They would find Aiko. They would break the curse. They would save their town. Hope, fragile but real, flickered within her. Maybe, just maybe, they could defeat Momo. Their search for Aiko led them to an old woman, a recluse living on the outskirts of town. Her eyes, filled with ancient wisdom, held a flicker of recognition when they spoke Aiko's name. The cottage was filled with the scent of herbs and the soft glow of candlelight, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The old woman, with her weathered hands and soft yet firm voice, invited them in, sensing the urgency in their quest. Aiko was her grandmother. She had banished the spirit within Momo years ago, but the curse was strong. It found a way back. The doll, with its lifeless eyes and sinister smile, had been a vessel for malevolent energy for generations. The old woman explained that the spirit within Momo was not just any spirit, but a vengeful entity that thrived on fear and despair. It had been passed down through the family, each generation trying to contain its power. The old woman knew the ritual to banish it again, but it was dangerous. They had to act fast. The longer Momo remained, the stronger it became. The friends, determined to help Aiko and end the curse once and for all, listened intently as the old woman described the steps of the ritual. They would need to gather specific herbs, create a protective circle, and recite an incantation at the stroke of midnight. The tension in the room was palpable as they prepared for the daunting task ahead. The old woman gathered herbs, candles, and an ancient book. The air crackled with energy as she began the ritual, chanting in a language long forgotten. The friends stood around her, holding hands and focusing their energy on the task at hand. The room grew colder, and the shadows seemed to dance with a life of their own. As the old woman's voice grew louder, the candles flickered and the herbs began to smolder, filling the air with a pungent aroma. The friends could feel the presence of the spirit, a dark and oppressive force pushing against their protective circle. They knew they had to stay strong and united to banish it once and for all. The room grew cold. Shadows danced on the walls. The air crackled with unseen energy. The scent of herbs and fear hung heavy. The old woman's voice grew stronger, echoing with power. Suddenly, the candles flickered. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. And then, she appeared. Momo, floating in the air, eyes blazing with malevolent fury. "You cannot stop me!" Momo shrieked, her voice dripping with venom. "This town is mine!" The room pulsed with unseen forces. The old woman struggled to maintain the ritual. Panic threatened to consume them. Sarah knew they couldn't let fear win. Momo fed on it. They had to be strong. For their town, for each other. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. "You're wrong, Momo." Sarah's voice, though trembling, was firm. "This town isn't yours, and we won't let you hurt anyone else." She met the doll's fiery gaze, refusing to back down. Her friends, emboldened by her courage, joined her. Together, their voices rose in unison, repeating the words of the ritual. The air crackled, the shadows receded. A glimmer of hope emerged from the darkness. The battle raged. Light against darkness, hope against fear. It was a struggle that had been brewing for months, a clash of forces that seemed almost eternal. The townspeople had felt the growing tension, the creeping dread that something sinister was at play. They had tried to ignore it, to go about their daily lives, but the darkness was relentless, seeping into every corner of their existence. The old woman's voice soared, leading the chant. Sarah and her friends joined, their voices growing stronger with each passing moment. The room pulsed with energy. The air was thick with the scent of burning sage, and the flicker of candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls. Each word of the chant seemed to vibrate with power, resonating deep within their souls. They were united in their purpose, bound together by a common goal, to banish the evil that had plagued their town. The air grew thick with tension. Then, with a deafening crack, Momo shattered, exploding into a million pieces. The force of the explosion knocked them back, and for a moment it felt as if the very fabric of reality had been torn apart. Shards of the doll flew in all directions, glinting like malevolent stars in the dim light. The room was filled with a cacophony of sound, a symphony of destruction that seemed to echo the chaos that had been unleashed. The evil that had haunted their town was gone. Silence descended. The only sound was their ragged breathing. They had won, but at a cost. The room, once filled with the vibrant energy of the ritual, now felt empty and hollow. The weight of what they had done settled over them, a heavy reminder of the price they had paid. The victory was bittersweet, a moment of triumph tinged with sorrow. The old woman lay slumped against the wall, the ritual having taken its toll. Her voice, weak but filled with relief, broke the silence. "It's over. Aiko is at peace." Her words were a balm to their weary souls, a confirmation that their efforts had not been in vain. But as they looked at her, they could see the toll the ritual had taken. Her once vibrant eyes were now dull with exhaustion, her body frail and trembling. She had given everything she had to ensure their victory. The haunting of the Momo doll was finally over. The remnants of the doll lay scattered on the floor, a stark reminder of the battle they had fought. But even in its broken state, it seemed to hold a lingering malevolence, a whisper of the darkness that had once consumed it. They knew that their town would never be the same, that the scars of this night would linger long after the last shard of the doll had been swept away. But for now, they could breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that the immediate threat had been vanquished.